This is a fan-based parody. All rights to the Poirot TV show are reserved by ITV. All rights to the Poirot novels, on which it is based, are owned by the Agatha Christie estate. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of True Crime Fiction. For those of you new to the channel, what we do here is we take crime fiction TV shows and movies and turn them into a true crime narrative. This way you get to enjoy the tension of a true crime show without all the gory details. Remember to like and subscribe for more intriguing adventures. Now enjoy the show.
No good leaving all this stuff for 56B. They're on holiday.
Well, all of them?
Oh, yeah. Now, Captain Hastings has gone off shooting things, and the secretary's gone off to visit her sister in Folkestone.
Well, what about the French one?
Somewhere foreign. Sent me a postcard with goats on it.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
We make our way to Rhodes, with all the hustle and bustle you can find in a street market. Street vendors are selling their goods. Food vendors are pestering tourists to try a sampling of their wares, and the general chaos of a busy port city fills the air. Our gaze falls on a woman navigating through the streets, her appearance standing out amid the chaos. She is clad in a lovely white dress and a hat, her demeanor marked by a sense of unease. Laden with several items, she briskly maneuvers through the market, accidentally bumping into some assertive vendors. She intermittently casts wary glances over her shoulder, seemingly checking to see if she is being trailed. And indeed, someone is following her. A diminutive, balding man clad in a white suit follows the mysterious woman discreetly, appearing equally urgent in his movements. The woman successfully evades her pursuer and slips into a narrow alley, unnoticed. A young girl happens to witness this scene, and noticing the man's intent, is intrigued. Although tourists are commonplace in the area, the man's pursuit of the woman, who is also presumably a tourist, ignites her curiosity. The young girl beckons to the woman and directs her down a different alleyway. She enlists the assistance of a few friends to hinder the man's pursuit, which now involves a strategically timed herd of goats. In the midst of her escape, the woman unexpectedly encounters Hercule Poirot, whom she instantly recognizes. She introduces herself as Pamela Lyle, and urgently asks to link arms with him, seeking his protection against the persistent pursuer. Hercule Poirot, ever the epitome of chivalry, graciously concedes to the woman's request and begins a friendly conversation. They both express their appreciation for the local cuisine and the beautiful scenery, and Miss Lyle confides the reason for her predicament. Poirot listens with interest, maintaining his composure. The situation becomes even more uncomfortable as they realize they are both staying at the same hotel, and Miss Lyle expresses concern that the persistent pursuer, with his persistence rivaling the local vendors, might intensify his efforts. Poirot casts a cautious glance over his shoulder, catching a fleeting glimpse of the man who, with a subtle gesture, tips his hat and withdraws. Poirot's keen eye immediately recognizes him as Major Barnes, a well-known figure known for his reputation with women. The two continue their walk, and their path leads them to a striking sight that has unfortunately become all too common in Italy, under the rule of Mussolini in the 1930s.
The behavior of the English abroad is something I have always found peculiar.
At least he's not a bottom pincher, Mr. Poirot.
Ehi, ragazzi! Vieni con noi, ragazzi! Ma ci sta Gruni? Con Lani?
Look at them. Troublemakers, always looking for a fight.
Perhaps. But for me, the English is more cold-blooded. His violence is more calculated.
Our focus now shifts to the bustling docks as a new group of passengers arrives. Commander Tony Chantry, accompanied by his wife Valentine, makes his presence known. Chantry exudes arrogance and entitlement, overestimating his importance due to his rank and wealth. He arrogantly berates the Palace Hotel employees, demanding they transport his luggage with utmost care, yet unwilling to assist in the task himself. Major Barnes appears at the scene, coincidentally staying at the same hotel, and attempts to join the hotel transport. But Commander Chantry's arrogance is on full display as he denies him a ride, deeming his own luggage superior in importance. As Poirot and Miss Lyle continue their delightful stroll, they arrive at the enchanting gardens of the Palace Hotel. Poirot notices Mrs. Valentine and can't help but question the number of husbands she has chewed through. Miss Lyle reveals that Tony is her fifth husband, leaving Poirot somewhat astonished. She appears to relish the drama and intrigue of the situation, but their conversation is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of Major Barnes. He confesses that he has been searching for her, and Miss Lyle slyly mocks his fishing skills, suggesting he must be quite anxious to seek her assistance. She then excuses herself and makes her way inside the hotel. As Poirot readies himself for the evening, he observes a new arrival at the hotel, none other than Douglas Gold. His arrogance equals that of the commander, and he appears equally glum, with constant complaints about the surroundings. Marjorie Gold attempts to uplift his spirits, advising a soothing bath to unwind. Poirot watches this exchange with piqued interest. The day unfolds with all our characters present. Mr. and Mrs. Chantry are lounging on the beach after a refreshing morning swim, with Poirot finding respite in the shade nearby. Miss Lyle sits alongside him, while the Golds arrive on the scene. Notably, Mr. Gold's disposition has significantly lifted since the previous night. He now appreciates the scenic beauty of Rhodes and expresses gratitude to his wife for persuading him to come along. Poirot notices of Marjorie's role in planning the trip and watches as she engages in a brief swim, leaving Tony to attend to some work matters. In the meantime, Mrs. Valentine savors a cigarette and attempts to paint her nails but finds herself struggling to open the bottle of nail polish. Mrs. Valentine seeks assistance with a nail polish bottle, and Douglas steps in. They share a pleasant conversation as they reminisce about old times. However, their interaction is interrupted by the commander's arrival. Initially, the conversation between the men starts off civilly, but it quickly turns hostile. Douglas explains he was only assisting Mrs. Valentine, but the commander implies there's more to it. Perhaps he's uncomfortable with his wife engaging with other men in his absence. Miss Lyle keenly observes the entire exchange between the commander and Douglas, thoroughly entertained by the unfolding drama. Much like a captivating car crash, she can't take her eyes off the scene. Even Poirot, typically detached, finds himself drawn into the intensity of the situation, his intrigue piqued. Poirot visits a local archaeological site, immersing himself in the surroundings and local history. A chance encounter with Marjorie leads to a pleasant discussion about Rhodes and the island's attractions. However, the conversation unexpectedly takes a serious turn when Mrs. Gold interjects, shifting the focus to a certain topic centered around Valentine Chantry.
When one sees so much trouble and unhappiness and so many couples divorcing each other and that sort of thing, one does feel very grateful for one's own happiness.
It is pleasant to hear you say so, madame.
That's why I feel so sorry for people who aren't happy. Mrs. Chantry, for instance.
Madame Chantry?
In a way, one feels sorry for her. I mean, in spite of all her money and good looks, she's the sort of woman I think that men would get tired of very easily. Don't you think so? Men are just like children. They believe anything. I gather you are a detective, Mr. Poirot. How long are you in Rhodes?
Sadly, madame, I leave on Saturday.
Their conversation leads them to a local restaurant and cafe, where a tour of the island is scheduled to take place. Mrs. Chantry is already present, and Miss Lyle is engaged in a conversation with Mr. Chantry, though it doesn't appear to be particularly pleasant or hostile. The commander enters the restaurant with indifference and even acknowledging his wife's presence. Poirot observes this exchange with unease, his professional instincts stirred despite being on vacation. Pamela expresses a morbid fascination with the unfolding situation. Ultimately, the tour begins, and our diverse group sets off to explore the surrounding area. The tour group arrives at a cliff where a snake captures Miss Lyle's attention. She expresses fascination, whereas the Chantrys actively avoid the creature. Poirot and Mrs. Gold cautiously approach to observe. Poirot remarks, jokingly, that if all murderers were as easy to spot as this snake, he would be out of the investigation business. The tour concludes and the group returns to the starting point for dinner. The band provides pleasant music, but Tony objects to it. Poirot intervenes, pacifying him. Everyone places their orders and settles in. The language barrier creates difficulties when ordering from the menu, further irritating the already impatient Mr. Chantry. The meal progresses smoothly until Marjorie makes a careless remark, sparking a heated reaction from most of the table attendees.
Well, I belong to the old-fashioned generation that doesn't believe in divorce. The sort of attitude there is to life nowadays that if you do a thing and you don't like it, you get yourself out of it as quickly as possible. Easy marriage, easy divorce. I hate that.
You seem to know a great deal about marriage, Mrs. Gold.
Oh, I'm sorry. I...
It strikes me you've been listening to far too many scandal mongers. Just because a woman is good-looking, people come down on her like a ton of bricks.
Oh, but I didn't mean... Oh, dear.
Marjorie? There was no need for that.
Yes, well, I can't imagine why you brought your wife on holiday anyway, Gold.
What do you mean?
Because you only have eyes for Valentine.
Don't be ridiculous. You must be drunk.
If you and my wife think you can put this one over on me, you're very much mistaken. I'll not be got rid of as easily as all that.
Miss Lyle remains detached from the escalating argument, observing as Poirot approaches Marjorie to provide comfort. He tries to reassure her of Douglas's deep affection, yet Marjorie remains emotional and teary-eyed. Poirot then offers a cryptic warning, urging her to depart the island. Initially taken aback, Marjorie questions the seriousness of the warning, but Poirot firmly asserts it's no jest. Poirot returns to his hotel room to find the maid busily packing his belongings, much to his dismay. He scolds her for a mistake, his frustration and irritation showing through. Despite his usual composure, even Hercule Poirot is not immune to bouts of anger and impatience. Having finished setting things in order, Poirot glances out the window to find Mrs. Gold having a chat with Miss Lyle about divorce. Poirot's uneasiness intensifies as he contemplates the situation. He later finds Miss Lyle in the hotel courtyard, where she shares the latest gossip. Mrs. Gold suspects Douglas will divorce his wife, leading to her own divorce, and the two will ultimately get married and start a new life together. Poirot's attention turns to an intriguing development. The Golds' enchantress are engaged in a heartfelt discussion, accompanied by warm embraces and handshakes. It appears that the previous tensions have been resolved, and the four individuals plan to embark on a leisurely walk to solidify their reconciliation. Miss Lyle expresses her disappointment that no crime has occurred, though she finds amusement in the ongoing drama. Poirot proceeds to check out of the hotel, encountering Major Barnes at the reception area. They engage in a friendly chat, with Poirot expressing gratitude for the company. Poirot then arranges for a cab, preparing to depart. Meanwhile, Douglas and Tony enjoy a relaxed game of pool, with Douglas attributing his victory to luck. They are soon joined by Barnes, and the three men, together with Pamela, Valentine, and Marjorie, head to the bar. Having returned from a scenic walk up to the Temple of Apollo, they witness the stunning sunset. The group has seemingly resolved their differences, and all appears amicable. The group orders their preferred drinks. Valentine selects a pink gin, while her husband kindly offers her his untouched beverage. She takes a sip and enjoys it, though it triggers a minor cough. Despite the minor reaction, everyone remains unconcerned. What catches Poirot's attention is a heated argument near the harbor. A man seeking passage is engaged in a heated dispute with a border officer, though argument may be an understatement, as the situation seems intense. The man's shouting is so loud that it reverberates through the building, his frantic pleas for the border guard to provide him with document trip to Naples falling on deaf ears. The guard stubbornly denies the request, citing issues with the man's presented documentation. The man vehemently asserts that he possesses all necessary documents to leave the island, and urgently stresses the need to depart immediately before missing his boat. In 1936 Italy, under the grip of Mussolini's regime, every individual is under constant surveillance by the secret police. The air of fear pervades society, as the specter of potential government action looms over them. The border guard, exasperated, finally has the noisy man escorted out, allowing Poirot to step forward. The guard carefully scrutinizes Poirot's documents for a few moments before inviting him aside for a more comprehensive conversation. Poirot, sensing something amiss, agrees to accompany the guard reluctantly. Meanwhile, Mrs. Chantry, still seated at the bar, continues to enjoy a cigarette and her glass of red gin. Initially, she attempts to dismiss her coughing as a minor issue. However, the coughing intensifies, suddenly becoming uncontrollable. Mrs. Barnes urgently calls for medical assistance as the situation escalates. Mr. Chantry rushes over to his wife's side, but efforts are futile. Valentine has tragically succumbed. Tony swiftly points a finger of blame at Douglas, suggesting he may be behind the incident, given that he'd ordered the drinks earlier. Tony accuses Douglas of having intended the drink for himself but accidentally given it to his wife, resulting in her death. Douglas is stunned and struggles to respond. Tony, gripped by grief and anger, adamantly declares that he will ensure Douglas faces the consequences, vowing to bring him to justice by getting him hanged. Amidst the ongoing dispute, Pamela decides to seek out Poirot, believing he is the only one capable of resolving the situation. However, she discovers he has boarded a boat bound for London, or would have if he hadn't been detained by the Italian police. She rushes to the dock and finds him engaged in an argument with the police, trying to explain his situation. The police, suspecting Poirot of being a Belgian spy, ignore his pleas of innocence and remain resolute in their beliefs. It is a tense situation, especially considering this is Mussolini's Italy, where accusations often carry significant consequences. Just as the argument intensifies, Miss Lyle intervenes, bringing shocking news. Mrs. Chantry has tragically passed away. Poirot had indeed had a sense of foreboding, given his earlier conversation with Mrs. Gold. Miss Lyle's shocked inquiry prompts Poirot to respond that, despite his suspicions, what could he have done? Should he have gone to the police simply because he felt someone had murder in their heart? Pamela manages to calm down, and Poirot reassures the police that he is a private detective, set on solving the case and finding Mrs. Valentine Chantry's murderer. He begins by visiting Douglas Gold in jail, where he engages in an intriguing conversation.
Oh, I was attracted to her. Who wouldn't be? It was within the bounds of propriety, Poirot.
Did she confide in you?
A little.
Was Valentine Chantry a happy woman, would you say?
In her marriage, you mean? She was rather lost and afraid.
Afraid of what?
Of Chantry. She thought he was jealous.
Of you?
Of anyone who paid attention to her. She was so helpless in many ways, Poirot. I felt protective towards her. But somehow everything got out of hand. Chantry behaving like a bull at a gate, then Marjorie getting hysterical.
Monsieur Gold, do you love your wife?
She's all the world to me.
You are a Catholic?
Yeah.
Your faith will be a great consolation to you.
Ma cos'è che fa ancora qui, eh? Lei è rimasto qui troppo tempo. Se ne deve andare.
Poirot, they'll hang me for this.
Not while I have the power to prevent it, monsieur.
Poirot pays a visit to the police chief to inquire about any new information. Given the previous misunderstanding, the chief surprisingly welcomes Poirot's investigation and confirms the discovery of a small green bottle of poison in Douglas's coat pocket. The officer assures Poirot that the bottle is safe to touch, and responds affirmatively when asked if Douglas was made to empty his pockets. Hercule Poirot points out the obvious, stating that fingerprints from Douglas would naturally be found on the bottle, since he was asked to remove it from his own pocket. Poirot questions the police inspector, suggesting that if this murder was premeditated, why would Douglas keep the vial in his coat pocket? The inspector is visibly annoyed by this line of questioning. The police inspector asserts that Mr. Gold was deeply infatuated with Mrs. Chantry, and the presence of Mr. Chantry posed an insurmountable obstacle. The inspector opines that the cold demeanor of English people thaws under such circumstances, and that this may explain why Mr. Gold acted so recklessly. Back at the hotel, Tony is relentless in his demands to return with his wife's body to England immediately. This issue intensifies as tempers flare and emotions threaten to boil over, adding weight to the tension that has been building all day. Meanwhile, Marjorie approaches to offer her condolences, though she acknowledges that her words may hold limited comfort. Poirot arrives at this moment, informing everyone that he is confident that Douglas will be freed by day's end. Marjorie expresses happiness with the news, but Tony remains resolute in his belief that Douglas should hang. Poirot joins Barnes and Miss Lyle, confiding in them that he firmly believes in Douglas's innocence, but admits that without knowing the identity of the poison's purchaser, he will be unable to establish his client's innocence. Major Barnes offers his assistance, revealing that he is acquainted with the forensics officer. Poirot expresses gratitude and makes plans to meet with him, joined by Miss Lyle. They head to meet the forensics officer to gather crucial information and move the investigation forward. The forensics officer, a friendly Englishman who fell in love with Rhodes and decided to call it home, shares his knowledge regarding the poison. He identifies it as snakebite, an extract derived from the venom of the horned viper. The forensics officer provides more details on the nature of the poison. It has medicinal properties in small doses, but becomes highly lethal in larger amounts. It's not readily available at pharmacies. He hints that herbalists or unlicensed healers might keep it in stock, and advises Poirot to explore local streets to locate potential vendors. With no further information to uncover, Poirot and Miss Lyle head out onto the streets, relentlessly inquiring with anyone they come across. They question fruit vendors, barbers, nuns, and even random locals, hoping to find someone who can shed light on the elusive vendor they seek. Despite their efforts and persistent questioning, the duo faces obstacles. Some people try to assist while others react negatively, even threatening to call the police. As the day progresses, they exhaust their options and visit numerous places, but they are met with no success. Despite their relentless efforts, not a single person can provide information on the poison's source. Close to succumbing to despair, they are suddenly approached by the young girl who assisted Miss Lyle earlier. Recognizing her, Pamela rushes to meet her. The girl appears to understand their predicament and eagerly guides them to the person they seek. The young girl guides Miss Lyle through an old entrance, but Poirot is directed to wait outside. Despite her pleas to bring him along, Poirot trusts her judgment and stays behind. Meanwhile, Miss Lyle meets an old lady who, despite selling poison, is apparently cordial and welcoming. A language barrier creates initial difficulties as the old lady assumes Miss Lyle wants to purchase poison for herself, not understanding the true purpose of their visit. Once the misunderstanding is clarified, Miss Lyle proceeds to inquire about the person who purchased the poison. She asks the lady if he was tall or short, black or white, fat or thin, emphasizing that any detail, no matter how insignificant, could be significant in identifying the killer. Initially, the lady mentions that the buyer was English. Frustration builds as the questioning yields little progress. Finally, the young girl intervenes and makes a startling revelation, disclosing that the person who purchased the poison was not a man at all, but a woman. Initially startled by this revelation, Miss Lyle quickly composes herself and rushes to share the news with Poirot. Once informed about the true gender of the poison's purchaser, Poirot swiftly realizes the identity of the killer and makes his way back to the hotel where he encounters an ongoing commotion. A series of passport thefts have taken place at the hotel. During the night, a mantis entered Mrs. Gold's room, and as the hotel employee on duty left the front desk to assist, an opportunistic thief seized the opportunity to steal several passports. Upon inquiring about Mr. Chantry's availability, the answer is negative. Poirot rushes to the dock with Pamela in tow, and during the journey he uncovers the true identity of the killer in a dramatic revelation.
Marjorie Gold and Chantry?
Oh yes, Mademoiselle Pamela. The eternal triangle, you remember? But not the one that you were supposed to see. It was only the reactions of Madame Gold and the jealous blusters of the Commander Chantry that made you think that Douglas Gold was in love with the Commander's wife, Valentine Chantry. Oh yes, it was skillfully done. You see, Marjorie Gold and the Commander Chantry had started their affair in England. They planned to meet here and stage their crime publicly. Chantry inserted the poison into his own drink and passed it to his wife. She drank it, and then in the confusion, he slipped the bottle of poison into the pocket of Douglas Gold.
How awful.
But now, we must stop them before they can leave the island. Already they have obtained their passports. I will check the boat for Brindisi. You ask if anyone has seen them.
Arriving at the docks, Poirot and Pamela fervently search for a vessel to catch up with Mr. Chantry and Mrs. Gold. Their luck changes when Major Barnes unexpectedly intervenes, agreeing to assist in apprehending the criminals. Initially, there's no sign of the fugitives, but after a brief wait, the culprits are finally spotted. Major Barnes expresses concerns that Mr. Chantry may possess a firearm, given his military background. However, Poirot confidently dismisses this possibility, stating that it would attract unnecessary attention. Little does Poirot know, though, that Mr. Chantry is now hurling small bundles of dynamite at them, which puts their safety in grave danger. With Miss Lyle and Major Barnes seeking cover, the chase continues, with Mrs. Gold taking the helm of the other boat, while Mr. Chantry persistently throws dynamite canisters. Despite a slow pursuit, hope seems almost lost until the Italian Coast Guard arrives, bringing relief to the perilous situation. Even the arrival of the Coast Guard proves troublesome at first, as misunderstandings arise and they momentarily suspect Poirot of wrongdoing. After he clarifies his innocence, Poirot, Miss Lyle, and Major Barnes finally reach shore, exhausted from the entire ordeal. They enjoy a much-deserved rest to conclude the chaotic events. With darkness slowly approaching, Poirot and Miss Lyle take a tranquil stroll along the beach, where they encounter a despondent Douglas Gold. The sight evokes pity, as he remains innocent despite the chaos he's endured. Poirot expresses hope that Douglas will follow the advice he gave to his wife and leave the island. After their relaxing walk, Poirot and Miss Lyle reunite with Major Barnes. Poirot is full of gratitude for his assistance, as they hail a cab and bid farewell. Just when Poirot is about to take his leave, Miss Lyle requests him to stay a while longer, expressing how she has grown fond of his company. Poirot regretfully informs Miss Lyle that he must return to London, as he has cases to solve. He gracefully kisses her hand, bidding farewell to his cherished companion.
Goodbye, Monsieur Poirot. I hope we shall meet again.
Au revoir, mademoiselle.
And that's it, folks. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. If you want to hear more of these gripping tales, make sure to like, comment, and hit the bell icon to get notified when we release more videos. Thank you again, and goodbye.